Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. Wife of 7 years cheated on me. Now everyone in my circle, friends, her parents and my parents are suggesting me to take her back. Don't know what to do. I met my wife 10 years ago, while we were both students at the same university. We dated for 3 years before getting married after 7 years of being together. She is a beautiful and kind person who is loved by all of the members of my family. I found out that my wife was having an affair with a mutual friend of ours 4 months after we became aware of it. It had been a 1.5-month relationship at the time, and she had been being exceedingly shady, avoiding my messages and rejecting me down every time I attempted to initiate. I had a sneaking suspicion that things wasn't quite right. I snooped about but couldn't find anything, so I hired a private investigator who turned up with proof within a week. The woman in question was having an extramarital affair with a mutual friend of ours. When I confronted her, she acknowledged to having an extramarital relationship. She burst into tears and begged for mercy right away. When they are apprehended, they simply go through the motions of a typical cheater. My demands for all the details, including a whole timeline, were greeted with reluctance, and she only gave me everything at night, mostly because she was having an affair on another phone at the time. She informed me that she only had relations with him 4 times, and that the rest of the time they were simply hanging around and having a good time. 3 days after that, more crying and self-pitying ensued as she told me that she had destroyed all contracts with him and that she would do anything it needed to make our marriage work, as she promised MC. MC agreed. I told her to leave me alone and that I would not be coerced. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and degraded by the situation. She moved in with her parents to be closer to them. After that, she started contacting me every hour, telling me how much she loves me, how much she hates what she'd done, and how she would do everything to keep our marriage together. After 2 days of complete and utter disregard for her, I informed her by text message that we were splitting. She went into a state of panic and started having emotional breakdowns, and my phone began to ring with calls from her parents, sister, and other family members. She is pleading with me not to end the marriage and to give her another chance. Her affair was revealed publicly later that day when she posted a long post on Facebook about how she had messed up and how she had wrecked her marriage, effectively admitting her affair. Despite this, I felt confident in my decision. She even insisted on taking a lie detector test in order to demonstrate to me that she had never cheated in the past. I refused. Blah, blah, blah. I requested some alone time in order to process things. Since then, we've been living in different places. All of this occurred around 4 months ago. Last week, when I asked for a divorce, she erupted into tears, begging with me to give her another opportunity. Her next step was to approach my parents and urge that they try to convince me not to divorce. My parents and her parents made an unsuccessful effort to encourage me to resolve the situation last night, and virtually every one of our mutual friends expressed their admiration for her for being so bold in revealing her affair in her Facebook post, as well as the fact that she cares about me and that I should give her a chance. I'm on the point of having a nervous breakdown. I can assure you that she is really sorry and regrets what she has done. I admire her, and her treachery has caused me the deepest heartbreak of all. I'm completely at a loss on what to do. How are things going for someone who has reconciled with their partner? Just a little update first and foremost, I'd want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you because of the overwhelming amount of support I've gotten in the last 15 hours. I'd want to apologize for not replying to your comments and private messages sooner. I'm aiming to answer some of the most often asked questions on this site. Despite the fact that we do not have children at this time, we want to have kids after the pandemic is over. We are both company owners that collaborate on projects. I haven't talked to her in over 3 months, and it has only been about business. Here's the most recent update. After going through all of your comments and private messages, I made the decision to call my parents and notify them that I was filing for divorce. After an hour, she called me, tears in her eyes, asking with me not to end the relationship. Because it had been so long since I had seen or talked to her about the affair, she pushed me to at the very least meet her in person. Every time I talked, I was completely uninterested in the subject of the affair. She assured me that she would explain everything to me, that I would hear her side of the story, and that any decision I make would be respected by her and her family. Because I have no idea what was going on, and because I don't know anything about the affair, it will serve as a satisfying conclusion for me. As a consequence, I made the decision to meet with her on Sunday. Simply said, that's all there is to it. Update 1. It was just as planned that we met together on Sunday afternoon. When I spoke to her, she was in a bad attitude. This is the first time I've seen her in a very long time. We spoke about our relationship, and I requested her to remove her Facebook post, which she gladly did, and I thanked her for her cooperation. I was interested in learning more about the affair. What was she thinking when she deceived me and started seeing someone else? The woman admitted to me that she had made a mistake and had been too self-centered at the time of the occurrence. She didn't hold me responsible for the affair, which I thought was kind of her. Her response when he began boasting about his adulterous activities was to tell me that they were just casually talking about it. She then gave me with text conversations from both of them in which he was bragging about his intriguing life outside of marriage. As a result of her expression of interest, a series of events ensued, one leading to another. My wife received several messages from him during the course of the relationship in which he provided instructions on how to conceal the affair. He believes she should get a second phone and have it in her vehicle at all times. In order to preserve my evidence, I took screenshots of everything I could locate. She quickly pleaded for forgiveness, which I readily accepted, but I couldn't seem to get rid of the unpleasant sensation. Divorce has always been my first and most apparent choice, and it continues to be so. She pleaded with me to take advantage of the available marital counseling programs. It was made clear that she would never date anybody else again in the future. If she does, I will be held liable for her actions. Not that I'm bothered in the slightest by it. We plan to continue to collaborate in the future. The reason being that this was a project that both of us had intended to undertake. In the case of our mutual buddy, let us suppose that, according to the most recent information I had, his wife and he had decided to reconcile. Due to the fact that children were involved, I feel terrible for his wife. She had no idea what type of monster he was until he showed himself to her. I feel sad for her. It has come to the point where we are separating, and I have made a deal with myself that I will never be in another relationship again. Final update. All of the pieces of my life are falling apart, and 3 days after I told her of my decision, she consumed phenol. Fortunately, she was saved and is now undergoing rehabilitation. I pay her a daily visit to check how she's doing and to see if she needs anything. I'm in a dreadful mood and feel a great deal of guilt. We've come to the conclusion that we need to reconcile and work on our relationship. In a month, she would be completely recovered. In addition, I must leave the country in order to begin a new life. In the previous 2 weeks, I've been referred to as a heartless by everyone in our friend group. My 2 closest friends were the only ones that remained by my side throughout this difficult time. I'm really grateful to have them in my life. My parents were unhappy with me since I was the one who had led her to commit suicide. I also realized that both of my parents were adulterers, which was a shock to me. My father was the first to cheat on my mother, and he was the first to admit it. My mother then embarked on a vengeance-seeking journey that provides a great deal of insight into why they were so supportive of my wife. I love my wife, and the notion of her inflicting agony on herself makes me sick to my stomach. I imagine that the divorce would mark the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, and that we would be able to move on from the experience. Things, however, did not turn out the way we had hoped. She still has a strong desire for our marriage and to be with me. When I first contacted you about this subject, you were quite kind and helpful. Stankers, thank you very much for your help.